There are a couple form pointers that I want to make clear when you're squatting that will help you engage the hamstrings and the hips. One of them is to make sure that your legs are outwardly rotated throughout the squat. If your knees bow inward, it's going to engage the glutes and the hamstrings less than if you outwardly rotate the legs. Let me demonstrate. As you squat, your knees are going to track outward over the toes into your squat. If your knees bow inward as you squat, what this does is it takes stress away from the bicep femoris and puts that stress onto the semimembranous and the semitendinosus. By outwardly rotating your legs, it helps you engage the gluteus maximus and the bicep femoris. So, make sure that your knees stay outward and don't bow in as you squat. This will help you engage your glutes and your hamstrings during your squat. Another pointer that I would give you to help engage the glutes and the hamstrings is to imagine that you're squatting in ski boots, or imagine that you are squatting with your feet frozen in cement up to the ankles. This will help you avoid the tendency of allowing your knees to shoot forward. So, as you squat, as you descend into the squat, you want to sit back, you want to maintain that nice, good arch, and ideally, at the bottom of your squat, you want this shin to be vertical. And sometimes, almost to the point where your knee is actually a little bit backward if you can maintain the balance. Okay? From this point, at the bottom of your squat, you want to engage the glutes and the hamstrings and drive up. Welcome to my garage. If you have access to a glute ham bench, it's an excellent piece of equipment that can help you hit your hamstrings and your glutes. First exercise I'm going to show you is called Hyperextension, and you might have a different kind of bench in the gym that you work out at. It might have a flat pad, but basically you're just going to extend your legs straight, and you'll start at the bottom here. You'll squeeze your glutes and hamstrings using your lower back and come straight up. This is the hyperextension. Now, a glute ham bench has this rounded pad, which allows you to use your hamstrings in the movement. So, what I will do is I will start here, and I will use my hamstrings to curl myself up. Come down straight, use my hamstrings to curl straight up. Okay, and that is the glute ham raise. Now, if I turn myself around on a hamstring, a glute ham bench or hyperextension bench, I can do what are called reverse hypers. And this is also a great exercise. Basically, you start here, and you're going to raise your legs upward. Now, you'll see specialized benches for this movement as well. All three of these exercises can be done with weight if you get strong enough. If you don't have access to a glute ham raise or a reverse hyper machine or a hyperextension bench, you can make do with a stability ball on a bench. Most gyms will have these. You'll probably want to use a higher bench than what I'm using, or a bigger ball. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to place a stability ball on the edge of the bench. You're going to reach over the stability ball, hold onto the bench. Your feet are going to be suspended in the air, and then you're going to kick your legs and hips up. Now be careful doing this exercise. Don't slip off of the bench and then say, well, the Squat Rex guy on YouTube told me to do it. A great exercise for engaging the hips and the hamstrings is called the CV Deadlift. It's named after Chuck Vogel of Westside Barbell. You can normally do this off of a low pulley attachment if you have a stack of enough weights. Or you could do it with bands, or you could rig up something with bands and a pulley as well. It's a great exercise for teaching someone to use their glutes and their hamstrings in a deadlift, and it can awaken those glutes and hamstrings if they aren't really firing properly. basically what you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up with a low cable pulley, or in this case, a jump stretch band. Be creative. And you are going to do a deadlift. Now, if you do the deadlift properly, you will be engaging the hips and the hamstrings. Notice how I am leaning back. I'm keeping my weight in the heel. If I don't keep the weight in my heel, and if I allow my back to round, it's going to punish me. And I'm going to go flying forward into the weight stack. So be careful with this exercise. Start light until you get the balance, and then try to add weight. There are a lot of calisthenics, body weight exercises that you can do to help you engage the glutes and the hamstrings if they aren't firing properly. This particular exercise that I'm going to show you next is one that I learned from Dynamic Tennis Warm-Ups by Mark Verstegen. It's a really good tape or DVD to check out if you have an interest in learning dynamic warm-ups. For this drill, you're going to get down on all fours. And from here, you are going to extend your leg up and behind you. If you do this properly, and if you go as high as you possibly can, you're really going to feel this in the glutes and in the hamstrings. It's almost like a donkey kick, but it's called the quadrupedal glute ham raise. Powerlifters often use sleds to help improve their squats and deadlifts. I realize most of you probably don't have a sled. In place of that, in place of a sled, you can use a plate. And you can do a lot of exercises just using a plate, and if you were creative and had rope and a bar, you could probably improvise something along the lines of a sled, but just a plate will do. One exercise that you can try is to slide a plate along the ground, and this is a good exercise that will work your hamstrings and your glutes. If you were to change position and slide outward, you would be hitting the hip abductors, and if you reverse direction, you could be hitting hip adduction as well. Next exercise is called a Dimmel deadlift. It's basically a Romanian deadlift that's done very quickly. The eccentric and the concentric portions of the lift are done as quickly as possible. It's almost like a plyometric lift. The Dimmel deadlift is named after Matt Dimmel of Westside Barbell. The key on the Dimmel deadlift is to make sure that you are engaging the hips and the hamstrings. If you're not engaging the hips and the hamstrings properly, it's going to be a real tough exercise on your lower back. So make sure that the stress is on your glutes and on your hamstrings. You want to use lighter weights for this exercise. Most deadlifters, even if they are 600, 700 pound deadlifters, probably aren't going to be using much more than 225 pounds on this exercise, and you want to use it for higher reps. You'll start off as you would with a regular deadlift. You'll start from the top, you'll lower it to your knees, and then you will pull up. Both the eccentric and the concentric should be as fast as possible, trying to make the reversal time as quick and as short as possible. In Squat Rex 1, we talked about the lower back rounding at the bottom of the squat. In Squat Rex 2, we talked about doing a good morning out of the hole. In Squat Rex 3, we've talked about how to activate the glutes and the hamstrings during your squat. Someone asked me, well, what if I do a high bar squat? Will these things still apply to me? When you do a low bar squat, you tend to do more of a forward lean, so would these things apply? It doesn't matter whether you do a high bar or a low bar squat. You don't want the lower back rounding at the bottom of your squat. It doesn't matter whether you do a high bar or low bar squat. You don't want to be doing much of a good morning out of the bottom of your squat. Those two things are very common errors, and you'll see the strongest athletes in the world doing them occasionally. But they are form errors, and you are really putting some extra stress on your lower back and taking some of that stress off of the glutes and hamstrings. Form is an issue for everyone. Even elite athletes are always working on their form and trying to improve it. So don't get frustrated. Give it a shot. Try some of the exercises that I presented. Don't try them all at once. Try them here and there, maybe at the beginning or at the end of your workouts, and see if they help you correct some of these issues.